Hey everyone, this is Josh Galvin with Tizish.com. On this video tutorial, I'm going to show you an overview of the on-site analytics program that you have installed with your WordPress system. Okay, so here's where you want to go. In your dashboard, scroll to the bottom where it says Size Stats, and you have several options here. This program, Size Stats, is your on-site analytics program. Now, what I'm going to show you is what each of these links are. I'm going to explain to you what they are, and while I'm explaining, I'll give a few tips here and there. And now, before we begin going over these, let me make a quick comment that this is your on-site analytics, but it's not at all as robust as Google Analytics, which is free to install and integrate with your site. And I have a separate video tutorial explaining how to install Google Analytics on your site. So be sure to do that as well, because your Google Analytics is the main one that we'll be talking about and using as you get into your site like many months down the road. Alright, so let's just go ahead and dive into all of these. I'm going to open all these in a new window, and we'll explain what each of them are one by one. Quick comment, I'm not gonna explain options because you don't need to touch anything in the options. The way your site was set up right from the start is exactly how it should be. So don't touch anything in your options. Alright, so let's just go ahead and get started with the first part, your index. Okay, and here's what your index is. Your index is basically the overview of your entire site. So all these other pages that we opened, this is basically all appearing on your site or as a summary on your index. Okay, so that's what the index is. Alright, so and here's the key thing on the index that you should pay attention to. If you just want to know straight right out of the bat, you know, what is the number of visitors to your website? Well, you come to the index and pretty much look here. This will give you a quick overview. This tells you the average post, comments, and the number of visitors to your site since it first started. And on top of that, here's the key thing you want to look at. These figures here. Alright, notice how it says, of course this is a demo site, so you're not really going to see visit numbers because this whole demo site is not indexed in Google. But basically, you'll see two numbers, visits and then human visitors. And then this is basically the same thing as hits with bots and hits without bots. Here's what this means. Your website is visited by humans that are actually going to your website to read content or search homes and do all that stuff, and Google, which is automatic crawlers and stuff. So when you see something that says bots, that means like Google's crawling system. So if Google comes and visits your site to see what they're going to index it in their search engines as, that's considered a bot. Or if Bing comes and visits your site, that's considered a bot as well. That's different than the ones that are called without bots, because those without bots are humans, plain and simple. So that's what this one means up here. When you have the number of visits, always look at the one of human visitors, because that's the one that really matters that you're looking for. Alright? So that's one thing to understand that's different. And now another important part. See right here where it says hits without bots, and then you have two criteria, unique visits and hits. Here's what the difference is between the two. A unique visit is just one time. It counts as one person that came to your website. So here's what that means, and here's how it's different from hits. Because they're basically the same thing, but the hits is just an extension of unique visits. If I come and visit your website for the first time, that counts as one unique visit. But while I visit your website, if I click on 5 different pages, that counts as 5 hits to your website. So that's the difference between the two. And the one that you really want to measure, I mean, you do care about unique visits for sure and hits, but definitely your unique visits is basically the biggest measure of how many people are visiting your site. Alright, because you could have 100 people visit your site and click on 100 pages, and then that would equal what, 1,000 or 10,000 hits. You know, so hopefully you understand the difference between that. And now with that being said, I want to explain what this bounce rate means, because it has to do exactly with what I explained about unique visitors and hits. Okay, so let's say that this was 40%, right? Instead of 39.29. Let's say it was 40%. Okay, what a bounce rate gets measured when you have one unique visitor that doesn't click on any other links to your site. That gets measured as a bounce rate. So what that means is I come to your website, and instead of me clicking on any other link within your website, I hit the back button on my browser, or I just close the browser, meaning I didn't click on anything else on your website. That counts as the bounce rate, meaning I came on your site and I bounced out of it. I left. So that's different than someone that comes on your site, and then let's say I came on your website and I click on one more link, at least one link anywhere on your site. I don't get counted towards the bounce rate. So the way this percentage is calculated is the following. Let's say 10 people came to your website. If 6 people end up clicking on, let's do it easier. If 10 people come to your website, and if 4 people end up not clicking any other link and just hitting the back button, that would make your percent 40%. So the goal is then to have a low bounce rate, because you want people to visit your site and you want them clicking on your different links. So you want to lower your bounce rate in that way. Okay? So that's what bounce rate is, and the goal is to have it low. An ideal number is like 30-35%. Alright, so shoot for that number. So let's just go ahead and move on. The hits and visits, it basically breaks it down to today, and then total number of visits per day. This is self-explanatory at this point. And then of course weeks, months, and then now we have our next section, pages and comments. This basically means the pages of your website. You know, so right here, your main page, you know, and then it shows you an article. This will show you which articles are getting clicks and so forth. So a general idea is that you want to, if you see a certain article has the most hits or visits versus another one, then that's a good sign that whatever you wrote about was more popular than the others, so you should probably write more about those and use the keywords that you were writing in them, because that leads into our next section down here called referrer, which means where did someone find your website from? And I'm going to combine referrer with search words. So here's what these two mean. The referrer means where did someone find your website from? So let's say if I was on Facebook and I saw a status update that had a link to your website, and I clicked the website from Facebook, from my Facebook wall, well, what I would see here in referrer is it would say facebook.com, whatever the case is. It would show me the link where I found you from. So that's almost the same thing. And also, here's another example. Referrer means if I typed in Google San Francisco real estate, and then your website came up and I clicked on your website from that search, then the referrer would be Google. So that's what that means. And the whole idea is when you see a lot of referrer from one core place, then that means you're doing something right in that market, and do more of it. Your other data will help you determine that, and I'll touch on that shortly. But basically, now let's move on now to the next part. Search words. This means how did people find your website through the search engines. So if I typed in the keyword San Francisco real estate and found your website, well then what you will see here is San Francisco real estate. So you'll see a bunch of keywords that people have been searching and finding your website from. So the general idea that you want to do with this is if you see certain keywords that people are finding your website with that you're not really optimizing for, then do some blog postings using those keywords. Alright? So that's the general idea, to get more traffic from those phrases. Alright, now what internal blog search phrases means is if I came to your website and I used your on-site search tool to search within your site, you would see what keywords I was using there. And if you see that, this becomes a hint to tell you that visitors are coming to your website for the content that they're searching here, but for some reason they can't find it. So what you want to do is make that content easy to find. Maybe put a widget in the sidebar that displays it and everything. Alright? So now the last hits doesn't matter. That just means what IP addresses and what browsers were people finding your site on and so forth. That doesn't matter. So this is pretty much the overall summary. Let's now go to each of the next parts. So the next one is blog. And now this is everything we're going to go over next isn't really anything new than what I just covered. This is just now the more in-depth sections of the overview we went over. So the SciStats blog, this basically shows you the categories, the tags, the blog postings and so forth that are most popular. So the whole idea is, like I'm going to say on everything else, if you have a certain category, a tag, or blog posting and so forth that gets the most visits, then that's a hint that that subject is very popular in your area. And what you want to do is look at that subject and try to see which blog postings are people visiting in that subject. And how you can do that is by going to the next section, which is your SciStats pages, which is found right here. So your SciStats pages will tell you which parts of your site are getting the most visits. You know, is it a blog article here? Is it your home page? You know, whatever the case is. So your SciStats pages is just a more in-depth look at the blog posts that you got visited on. All right. So what you want to do is look at those blog postings that are most popular, and then pretty much cross-reference them with other things like what categories and tags are they in, and basically do more of that. So whatever is really popular, do more of. And if something's unpopular that you felt was popular, then do less of that, or maybe change your keywords that you put in them by looking at the referrers and stuff. So hopefully that's making sense. Let's just keep going on to the next points. Now the next one is called the clients, SciStat clients. And this basically is what kind of browser were people using when they found your site. This stuff doesn't really matter for you. But same thing with search engines to your site. You know, where did people, this is, yeah, you know what, this stuff is just more like the technical stuff. As a real estate site, you don't need to know this. This doesn't matter too much realistically. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is your SciStats referrer. And this is my favorite and most popular one I think you should pay attention to, along with time, which we'll get to very shortly. Your referrers, like we said earlier, is where did people find your website from. And what I wanted to look at, though, is basically what you want to look at is your search engine referrers. Find out what keywords are people using and what searches and what position are you in. So see this example here? It says visit referring page. It's showing you the actual Google search someone did. So if I open this link up, let's see where in the search results someone typed in demo.tizish.com. So basically, let's assume it was an actual keyword phrase. Look at the list and see what position was that keyword, and that gives you a hint of how people are finding your site. It's just good data to have. So that's what referrer is. The main thing I like to look for is the keywords people use to find your site, and then do more postings using those keywords. And then if you have keywords that, actually basically that's the whole point. So let's go to the next one, which is now robots and tools. This is exactly what we talked about a little bit ago. You know, you see here search engines, Google bot. Basically this just means that the Google's little crawler has visited your site a lot of times. And here's the main point. You want Google's numbers to go up a lot. You want Google to visit your site a lot. So the more that they visit it, the better. Okay? So now let's move on to the next one. And it's pretty much the last one. And it's called it's the time. And this is one of my favorite ones to look at. Combining time with pages and then with the refer will tell you a lot about your website. And here's what that means. You look at the time. First of all, this breaks it down simple. By day, by visits, which means unique visitors, and hits, meaning how many clicks did they go through and so forth, and then by hour, by week, by month, and then year. And here's what you want to do with this data. What you want to do is see which days and which hours and which weeks and stuff get the most visits, and then cross-compare it to which pages and stuff were the ones that were the most visited during that time, and then cross-refer that with which referrers were the ones sending that traffic to those pages at that given time point. And basically what you want to do with that information is see if I had, here's the way you would think about it. If you had 34 visits on March 28th and then you had only 16 on March 29th, look at the pages and blog articles and the referrers to see why was that the case. And what you want to do is basically, if you notice that one day gets way more visits consistently than another day, or maybe one week gets more visits consistently than another week, then what you want to do is publish more articles on that day or on that week. Alright, and then on top of that though, here's the key thing. Look at like this, for example. This is a demo one, so it's really skewed, but still. March 28th says 34 visits. March 29th says 16. What I would do, if this was a real articles and stuff, is I would go look at the referrers on March 28th and see why were there more visitors on the 34th, on the 28th compared to 16, and see where are they coming from. What source are they coming from? So if I saw that they're coming from Facebook more on the 28th or on Wednesday, let's say, than they are on Friday, then that means on Wednesday I want to do more postings that I share on Facebook. So this basically becomes your roadmap for telling you what you should be doing more or less of. So meaning, let's say right here on March 27 you got one visit, and you're like, and let's say that day you wrote a really great article. Well, maybe that day to your target market just isn't a day that people read. So what you want to do is publish more stuff on the day that people do read. Something like that. It's a general idea. Alright? So hopefully this all makes sense. This is basically your on-site analytics. I do recommend you get Google Analytics installed because that's way more in-depth and way more archive data and all this other better stuff you could do with it. But basically this is a good snapshot of all the traffic going on your site. To keep it simple, if you just want to see a quick overview, just look at your index and look at the box here. This is just your main box to look at, and then your daily hits and everything. Alright? So that's everything you need to know for using analytics. If you have any questions, go to facebook.com/Tizish, the way you see it spelled here, and ask me there. Alright? Good luck and take care.